Hi everyone, this is Charlene with Tranquil Tuesdays. Today I'm going to talk about brewing white tea, but first I wanted to read you a little excerpt from the book of Tea by Kakuzo Akakura. That was my best attempt. So this is like the book, one of like the classics you see everywhere about tea in English. And I didn't realize this, but I just learned that it was published in 1906 and it was originally written in English in 1906. It's not a translation. He wrote it in English with an intended English reading audience. This is the beginning. Tea began as medicine and grew into a beverage. In China in the 8th century, it entered the realm of poetry as one of the polite amusements. The 15th century saw Japan ennoble it into a religion of aestheticism, teaism. Teaism is a cult founded on the adoration of the beautiful among the sordid facts of everyday existence. And I mean, I just happened upon my copy of the book in the last week since we're all at home. And when I read that first paragraph, I was like, wow, the line about entered the realm of poetry is one of the polite amusements. I liked that a lot, but also I felt this one line was so relevant to our current situation. Teaism is a cult founded on the adoration of the beautiful among the sordid facts of everyday existence. And I just thought that was really relevant to trying to find a moment of tranquility through tea during this crazy time when we're all at home. So I chose white tea today because white tea to me is probably the most comforting White Peony White Tea. It's one of the most comforting teas, and also it's so easygoing and so forgiving, which I felt was a great contrast to green tea, which we did last week when I was like, you really need to focus on time and temperature. With white tea, you can be so much more relaxed about all those things. So we're gonna work on that today. As always, we're gonna start out by warming up our implements. I am using a Celadon teapot today, and I love talking about Celadon because there's just so many interesting stories related to Celadon in Chinese porcelain culture, but in Chinese tea culture. I mean, Celadon is, I would say, China's most distinctive porcelain craft. Blue and white painted porcelain, which is what I was using last week, is probably most associated in the modern era with China, like China blue mingware. But, blue and white painted porcelain is something that China porcelain makers learned from Iran, and the trade with Iran, the ancient trade with Iran, and then they learned this idea of blue cobalt dye on porcelain from Iran, and they, cultivated that as their own culture. But Celadon is something that China uniquely created, and it was something they were so celebrated for in the ancient world. People were just dying to learn about Celadon. So I have a link in the description below, which a lot more information about Celadon that I've written about in the past. And so anyways, that was my little on Celadon. So I heated up the pot, heating up my cup, and I'm going to show you the tea leaves. So you'll see they're much fuller and bigger than the green tea leaves from last week. When you are using White Peony White Tea, it is a tea bud and 2 leaves. If you just have the tea bud, which I don't know if you're gonna be able to see this, if you want to see it overhead zoomed up shots, you can watch the videos we make with the Asia Store and Asia Society, and those have them intercut and edited in. But well, try your best to see this here. If you use just a little tea bud, that is a white tea. That's called silver needle white tea. You might have seen that on shelves. But a tea bud with leaves is White Peony White Tea. And I mean, in terms of white teas, there are definitely plenty of teas that are tea bud with leaves that are green teas or oolongs, but in the world of white tea, if you just have the buds, silver needle. If you have a bud and leaves, White Peony White Tea. Okay, so this teapot holds about 300 milliliters of water, which is decidedly bigger than the pot I used last week, but still pretty small in the world of American teapots. I'm putting in about 2 tablespoons of tea, which might seem like a lot more than what I used for proportionally for the green tea last week, but a lot of that is just because the leaves are just a bigger volume. So we're gonna rinse our tea like I've been doing all the other times. And the water temperature I'm using is 100, I think that's 175 degree water. I mean, the range that's optimal for White Peony White Tea is also a lower temperature water, 75 degrees Celsius, 180 degrees Fahrenheit. That's sort of the neighborhood you want to be in, but it's honestly so much more lenient than green tea. I've had white teas that have been almost boiling water. I've had it with them colder. You don't want to get too much colder because you really want to be able to open the leaves, but I've had it with hotter and it's fine. It's fine. You're not going to ruin it, but I personally like it with lower temperature water because I think the flavors are a little softer and gentler, and I just like it that way. Okay, so we're going to do first steeping. And you know, just like that first video I made with the Pyrex, the goal here is really to give your leaves enough space to open up and release their flavors. That is the goal anytime you're making tea, but especially White Peony White Tea, because the leaves are already pretty big to start with, and so you really want to make sure they have the space they need to open up. And I'm going to use this tea basket as a strainer, actually. But like, I know many people use it as their actual brewing vessel or what they use to put their teas in. This is just not enough space, especially not for White Peony White Tea. Like if you see, I mean, just look at the space of this compared to this. You don't want to make your teas feel squished and restricted. You want to give them a lot of freedom and space to roam. So yeah, time, again, you can do between like 1 minute, you can do it a little longer. This, I think I made this a little light, I can tell by the color. This is like a light yellow. But like all good loose leaf teas, you should be able to enjoy this over multiple steepings. I would say 3 to 5 for White Peony White Tea. You see just a few seconds difference. The color is actually pretty different between these two. And like I said, you don't have to be as worried about over steeping as with green tea, but I still do like to decant fully so that you can get more out of your teas in more steepings versus just like letting them sit forever on that first steeping. And yeah, so this is great. It's what I love about White Peony White Tea and why I think it's one of the most comforting teas. It's just very soft and gentle, and the flavor is very like lightly sweet and delicate. I always taste notes of cucumber. It's kind of that fresh, cucumbery, gentle flavor that like if you had a really great cucumber water, similar. I mean, it doesn't taste like cucumber, but I definitely feel like cucumber is one of the prominent notes. And I just think it's such an easy tea to like. Usually someone doesn't know which tea and they're just starting out, I would recommend White Peony White Tea because it's just such an easygoing tea. Easy to like, very accessible, very friendly, and just very comforting. So if you have any questions, we have a weekly Zoom virtual tea room, which you are welcome to join. It's Tuesdays at 4 to 4:30 p.m. EST. There's a link in the description to get to sign up for newsletters so you can get the Zoom link. I hope to see you there. We drink tea together. It's very casual. You can ask me questions. I'm happy to answer them. And I think next week we're going to try to make a video about black tea and about milk and tea. So I hope to see you then, and happy Tranquil Tuesdays. Bye.